This is my Clark 350M mini lathe that I bought about 15 years ago, something like that. And after 15 years of inappropriate use and abuse, it's given up the ghost. So it's dead, it has ceased to be. It is no longer a parrot that works. So it's now time to get a new lathe. So today, this arrived, and it is not what I was expecting. Okay, there it is, all set up and bolted to the bench. Now, it is what it is. It's a mini lathe. Now, my Clark, which did me great for about 10 years, was a 150 watt motor. And this is a 650 watt motor, so it's going to have a bit more oomph in there and enable me to do bigger jobs. But I'm not going to be turning out parts for a car or my next world-beating tank on this. It's not up to that kind of job, but it'll certainly do plastics, timber, soft metals and steel as well. It is called the 210 by 350. What that means is that the swing over the bed is 210 millimeters, and sorry, over the cutting beds, and the swing over the bed is 350. 350. The speed range is between 50 RPM and 2250 RPM, so a nice range of speed. And with this, it seems pretty stable. I mean, at least as stable as the Clark, because let's face it, we don't really know what we're talking about when we buy a new machine, because you really find out about it when you use it. So to tell you if this is a good machine or not, it's going to need a couple of years of use. To tell you how it compares to the Clark, which I've used for about 10 years and have found a more than acceptable machine, then it's actually more stable. It's more stable than the Clark. It has a bigger, more powerful motor on it, and it's really quite a nice build with lots of extra little features on it that I intend on exploring. In terms of price, now I paid £530 on this because I bought it direct from Vevor. I looked on Amazon and they wanted over £700 for it actually, so buying direct you definitely get a much better price. Given the price of my Clark, which was about $350 12 years ago, we're probably talking about the same kind of price range for the machine, but in that price range we certainly seem to get a lot more, and the machining of it and the stability of it certainly seems to be as good as the Clark. And like I say, that Clark did everything I wanted for years, so I'm expecting this to do the same. The only answer to will it have done the same is in 10 years time and it's still lasting. So it looks like a good bet. Certainly the money wasn't very much. The build quality seems at least on a par with that in terms of stability. And if you watch the video of the heart of the lathe, you'll know that it's this section that we're really interested in. Now, I have read a number of comments by people who say that they're basically happy with it, but there were some comments about the motor drive. So you can see at the end there, I've taken the motor drive plate off. Let's have a look. Now, for some reason, people were complaining a lot about this in terms of the drive. They were saying there was a problem with the gears and you had to see to that problem before you actually put it on because it could slip into reverse. Actually, on this, the motor is right down there. And there's a drive belt going through this housing to the lathe head right there. It's driven on that cog there. So it's a belt drive directly from the motor. And things like the speed and forward and reverse are not controlled by that. They're actually controlled by the electronic control. So it's the electronic control board in here that's going to control that motor, and that motor directly drives this spindle head. So there aren't any gears between the drive and the rotor head, so there's nothing to brake there. Now if I turn that, you can see these gears all turning. What these gears are for the lead screw right there for pitch threading. So you can change all this around to do different pitches if you want to do thread cutting. Now I have never done that, so I'm not sure exactly how to do that, but the thing did come with a big bag of alternative gears, and you can see that these are quite easy to remove with these Allen screws here. So I'm guessing we remove them, swap some gears around, and you change the speed of the thread cutter. Not going to be something I use a lot of, but certainly something I will be investigating later. And I wanted thread cutting on it because it is something that I want to see how it's going to go. But the basic lathe itself is a direct belt driven from here, from the motor there to this here. And people were saying there was an alignment problem with it. Now I've checked the motor, and the motor is actually nicely tightly fixed, and the alignment looks reasonably good. But of course with the belt drive, there's a lot of slack in alignment anyway. So I don't think those issues are going to be issues with this particular version. But I did check it out, and then I had a look at that to see if it would be an issue. But That's all there is to it. This looks relatively complicated, but it doesn't play any part at all in the lathe function, which is just straight from the motor, straight to the spindle. So they don't leave you alone with that. Here's the cover back on, and you can see there's a little diagram showing you the gear ratios, what teeth you can get for the different speeds, etc. And it's just held on with these couple of knurled thumb nuts right there. They just undo. Of course, it comes with a bunch of tools to get you up and running, and these tools are supposed to go from 3/8 to 1/2 inch. 3/8 is recommended, 1/2 inch apparently does better, and it goes in the 4-change tool post there, which is release and swap around, so you can get a different tool lined up. Now, when I compare this with the Clark, which to be honest was a bit of a bear to work with, then this looks like a much better option to me. Sturdier tools, less likely to break, nice tool post. The other features you can look up, to be honest, because it's got what you'd expect: speed control, live center, decent tool post, blah blah blah. Plenty of information about that. But the thing obviously is how it's going to perform over time, and the only thing I can tell you is I'm comparing it to the Clark, and the Clark has been a good lathe, and this, I would say, for the same money, was at least as good as the Clark. And there's a couple of little wonky bits here and there, but I'm not surprised, because, you know, you're not buying a £3,000 lathe, you're buying a £500 lathe, so you can't buy a lathe at 500 quid and expect £3,000 worth of manufacture. It's just, you know, not going to happen. And they've done the best they can, I think, within the budget they've got to produce a pretty reasonable hobby lathe that doesn't seem underpowered. Now, obviously you've got... Oops, that's me knocking bits of steel. You get your usual stuff: stop, start button, speed control. If we turn that on, lights open, we get a decent amount of speed. And you see that the lead screw is turning, and if I do that, there we go. We've engaged the lead screw now, and you can see that that's actually taking the tool post down. I do that, it stops turning. I can put that automatic off and then into reverse. Engage the lead screw, and it's going to bring it the other way. There you go, you can see it doing that. So that bit works, which is kind of cool. We set that going. There we go. Safety switch works. That's handy to know. However, there is one thing. That doesn't have a safety switch with it, so the guard can come up and it will still turn on. Perhaps not the best feature. Now, it does come with a bunch of neat little bits and pieces in a tiny little tool case. It's got a chuck key, it's got the other side of the chucks, a few spanners, Allen keys, and then a bunch of steel gears so you can change the gear ratios on the lead nut. So an awful lot of little bits and pieces come with it. In case you're wondering why I'm not putting a bit of steel in there and cutting it, well, it's actually my birthday on the 5th of June, which is 3 days from now, and this is my wife's birthday present to me. So, although I'm allowed to video it and show you guys and go through it, I'm not actually allowed to use it for 3 days. So, it'll be in 3 days' time when I turn something with it. So on the whole, I'm actually really quite pleased with it. I think it's been a good purchase that'll do the job. Of course, the only real answer is going to be in 2 to 3 years' time when I've been using it, but it's at least as good as that Clark on first inspection, and it's a reasonable machine for the price you've paid for it. So I would say that's going to be that's going to be a joy to use. Now, it is the Vevor MX8x14, and I bought it straight from Vevor. I bought it, incidentally, this wasn't sent to me as an unboxing, this is something I bought for myself. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to like and subscribe, and we'll be doing some stuff with this.